Welcome everyone, this is Noah Dalzell and I'm here with a very special episode of You Got Boston after having spoke to Jayson Tatum for the first time since Media Day, first time since the Celtics season began. I'm here at the Wang YMCA in Chinatown where the NBA Cares and the Celtics just hosted a very special event. This is the 20th anniversary of NBA Cares and the 175th anniversary of the YMCA. And here we had a gym full of kids who were super excited to be here. They technically did not know that Jayson Tatum was going to come and surprise them, although I did see a crowd outside when I came in, and it did lead me to believe that the word had gotten out that there might be a Celtic star coming here and surprising everybody and spending an hour or so of his time. And that star was Jayson Tatum, who literally just got off the plane after coming back from New Orleans with the team a couple hours ago. He shuttled right here, and then he spent about an hour playing basketball with the kids, playing Connect 4, hanging out, and just really enjoying the community. I got to sit with Tatum after the event, or actually in the middle of the event, and catch up with him a little bit about, first of all, just how everything has been going for him now that the season has started. He's traveling with the team, and here's what he had to say about what that's been like.
What has that experience been like? This is the first time that you're not on the court, but you're traveling with the team. Has it been challenging mentally? Has anything about that journey surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm still dealing, rehabbing, and I'm getting better every day, but I'm not, there able to play yet. So, it's just my first time starting the season and not being out there. It's tough. I love to play. I love to compete, and not being able to be out there with the team is already tough enough, but I think just still traveling and being with them during meetings and the game and practice and shoot arounds, still trying to feel as much a part of the team as I can. I think really helps my mental health a lot.
The reason that Jayson Tatum came here, and this is something that I think those of you who have followed him and the Celtics for a long time are well aware of, is he has a strong passion for community centers, and in particular St. Louis. Jayson is from St. Louis. He invests a lot of his resources, the Jayson Tatum Foundation, in community work in St. Louis, whether that is hosting his annual toy drive, coat drive, his basketball camp, his golf tournament. And he mentioned to me that he doesn't always get the opportunity to actually go and be there in person for those events, but over the summer when he gets a break, he always does. And this past summer, nobody had really heard from Jayson, nobody had really seen him until it came to the moment where he appears at his basketball camp and his foundation was posting him. He still had a boot at that point. And I asked him about how pivotal that week that he spent in St. Louis was to his recovery and to kind of his well-being as he returned back to where he is now, where he's walking around and he's much more in the public eye. And here's what he had to say.
Making the decision to come here, like you have all these opportunities, why was it so important to come to the YMCA and spend this hour here with the kids?
I think, I really enjoy things that are organic to me, and it's true. Like I got pictures and photos. My first memory of playing basketball was at the YMCA back in St. Louis. I used to look forward to Saturday mornings, when I was in first, second, third grade, even kindergarten, going to play at the YMCA on Saturdays. And that's really where, I was playing organized basketball and I fell in love with the game. That's just kind of where it all started for me.
And then obviously, this past summer, you spent some time in St. Louis, and I think you tweeted out, like, this has been the most, I love St. Louis, like, it's been so special. We hadn't really seen you until that time. Like, what was that, week like for you as far as your recovery goes and as far as just, like, getting better and being around the kids and all of that?
It was very helpful. I go home every summer. I do my charity golf event and my basketball clinics and a bunch of different events for my foundation. And I normally spend like 4 or 5 days. And, so 2024, after we won the championship, I brought the trophy home, and that was super exciting for the kids in the city of St. Louis. And then, I get injured this year, and it was tough. Like, I was dealing with everything. And it was kind of a breath of fresh air to kind of go back home and be around all that energy and support and love. And I think at that time during my rehab, it really helped me out. And just being back home, right? Like, people back home really, have supported me when I went to Duke and now with the Celtics. And everybody back home is a Celtics fan. And it's just, small town, small city kid, making his dreams come true. And never forgetting where I come from. And just always trying to get back there every chance I can.
as someone who's never been to St. Louis, what is it like? Like, what is, like, everybody's from somewhere, but I don't know that I know many people who, it seems like where you're from is a bigger part of your identity than most people. Like, why is that?
I think just because, one, St. Louis is not a big city, like it's smaller. So, a lot of people from St. Louis kind of carry a chip on their shoulder. When I was younger, there wasn't a lot of positive things talked about where I was from. Like, I felt like we were always overlooked. I always felt like I heard about kids in New York or North Carolina or Texas or California or Chicago. I never felt like I heard them talk about people or kids from St. Louis or in, basketball wise. So I just always made it a commitment, I guess, to myself that I was going to be, one of the best, and I was going to let everybody know where I was from. And, I've tried to stick to that.
I think the cool thing is that for a lot of athletes, I don't know that I could even tell you off the top of my head where they're from. And even just when I didn't cover the team and I just followed the Celtics, the number one thing I thought when I thought about Jayson Tatum was St. Louis. And I think that's what he wants people to think. That's what is most important to him. And that's why as part of this event, the NBA is making a gift to the St. Louis YMCA. And that's going to be a center that he is going to further invest in now. To date, most of his foundation's work have been centered at the Wohl Community Center, which is a community center where he grew up playing basketball. If you Google the Wohl Community Center, you will see it is all about Jayson Tatum. It is the court where he first learned how to play. He invests in everything there. He has refurbished that court. He has invested in technology. All of the renovations, investments have all come from him over the years. And it is the #1 recipient of his foundation's work. And now that community work is going to expand thanks to this NBA gift for the YMCA in St. Louis. So that was super cool to see. And one thing that I wanted to mention is, those of you that follow my coverage know that I go to a lot of these community events. My favorite thing about covering the Celtics is getting to see how excited kids get when a player like Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Derek White or whoever else it might be walks into a room, and just their very presence is enough to uplift these kids. And this was a perfect example of that. Just sitting here, I was here before Tatum arrived. There was a show here that was super cool. There was a panel. Abby Shin from NBC Sports Boston facilitated. Shapiro, the director of the Greater Boston YMCA, who we see all the time at these YMCA events, he was here as well as people from the NBA, local city councilors, local legislators. So a lot of important people in this gym. But when Tatum walked in, he was the only one that really mattered, and these kids are going crazy, and he is relishing every minute of it. And I think it's one of those things that he said, doesn't get old. Did the kids know that Jayson was going to be here?
They had no idea.
Because I was on the street, I heard people say, I think someone special might be coming. They had no idea that
it was a secret Santa surprise. It was like early holidays. It was early Christmas coming, and this is larger. Jayson was larger than life. This became the grandest stage of them all. The Wang YMCA just became a very epic center of celebrations, and you can see the reactions and the energy in the room, and it's hard to tamp down the excitement because Jayson himself is someone who loved the community, and the energy that he sent to the kids was amazing, and they had no idea. I did not know that he's coming. I did not know. So yes, no, like a lot of us did not know that he's coming. So it was a secret surprise. It was what we call a blessing.
One of the things that I've noticed being on the road here, because I have been at all the road games both in preseason and the regular season, is that during timeouts, he now stands on the court and he kind of locks eyes with different, fans in the stands, whether it's Celtics fans, little kids, and he waves to them. And I asked him what kind of inspired him to do that, because obviously he's in a very different spot now that he's traveling. He's not necessarily traveling like how he used to, with the intent of being ready for the game that day. And here's what he had to say about that experience.
I have noticed that there's a lot of moments where during timeout breaks, you're like waving to Celtics fans and you're having like little moments. Is that something that you're trying to kind of make an intentional effort because you're on the road, like to have those connections with the fans, and maybe if you were like locked into the game, you wouldn't be able to do?
Yeah, there's a lot of Celtics fans when we travel on the road. And I think, in like a humble way, there's a lot of Jayson Tatum fans out there that, some cities where New Orleans, we only come once a year. I understand the value of people who only get to see us once a year and, try to see their favorite player play. So, you know, I'm not able to play, but I could be out there and maybe I can make somebody's day if I wave at them or something like that.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. I've been super excited to see the Patriots winning so many football games. I'm excited to see how the upcoming week of football goes. All you have to do is, you know, go look at your favorite players and look at what their call out and projections are. So I'm hearing all the hype about Drake May. You can select Drake May in your next PrizePicks. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Play PrizePicks to get action on football in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, all only on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So overall, a very cool event. I never pass up the opportunity to come to one of these and spend some time in the community, this time in Chinatown. When the kids were asked about like how important is the center to you, they all went crazy, because I think one of the things that people that don't experience a community center don't realize is how pivotal it becomes as part of your day-to-day life. This is where these kids go every day after school. This gym right now is being refurbished by the Celtics. All these local YMCAs have been refurbished over the years, and I talked to Dave Shapiro about this, and he said, you know, this partnership with the Celtics is so meaningful, it is so deep, and it is beyond just surface level. Like, there are investments in all sorts of ways when it comes to what the Celtics do to make sure that the local YMCAs are as good as they can possibly be. And he said, you know, there's competing interests, there are pools, there's locker rooms, and so the Celtics will always make sure that the kids have really nice basketball courts like the one that you see behind me, and that's really the number one priority for this franchise. And so being able to both talk that and say that, and then also have the face of your franchise, one of your biggest stars in Jayson Tatum, be here in the building just shortly after landing, I thought that was a really special experience. And I know everybody is wondering, is he going to be back this season? That has been the number one question heading into this year, and he made very clear before Media Day that that is still the goal. And I asked him about that today. Does that still remain the goal? Because you hear all these former players saying, you know, don't do it, there's a risk, be careful. And here's what he had to say about that.
Is your mindset still the same of like, I'm going to try to do everything I can to maybe come back? Or is that still where you're at mentally?
I mean, yeah, I've been working my butt off for the last 24 weeks now. Just trying to get healthy and trying to get 100%. And it's just something that motivates me, right? Every day I go rehab and work out, and I'm on the court. You know, something that I can try to get to. It's like a goal. You know, myself, and challenging myself every day.
So as you heard, Jayson Tatum coming back is very much still on the table. He is working his butt off. We know that when he's on the road, he is going to shoot around. He is going to film sessions. He is at every home practice. He is everywhere. And whether or not he's able to return remains to be seen. Obviously, the Celtics had a slow start to the season. They're just 1-3 on the year. And whether or not that's going to even be a factor, I don't know. You know, it's very possible that even if they're not in position to make a run, he wants to come back just because that's what he's been working toward. Or alternatively, if they are making a run, maybe he wants to come back even more so to be a part of that. So it's too early in the year to know. It's not even a week since the first game of the season. But talking to him here today, his first words to the media since the season began, his first words actually since Media Day, it is quite clear that that remains the goal. And I'll just mention, I've spoken to a couple Achilles tendon experts who really understand this field. Dr. Soslavsky is one of the ones that I've kind of been turning to regularly to better understand kind of what the downside is of you know, rupturing your Achilles tendon and coming back within the year. And my understanding right now from just talking to those experts is that if you're fully recovered and if you've ticked those boxes, there's not really much of a risk when it comes to, you know, you returning to the floor. The risk of re-injury is extremely low, and I think he is well aware of that, and that is part of what's going to go into his calculus. So Brad Stevens, Wyc Grousbeck, they've all made clear there is not going to be any rush for Jayson Tatum to return this season. And I think he knows that. There's no pressure for him to do that. But he continues to work extremely hard to put himself in position to make that decision. And nothing has changed. Today was the 6-month anniversary of his injury. He tweeted that. He made clear that he is monitoring those milestones. And he remains very much hoping to return this season. So that's the update here from the Wang Center, the Wang YMCA here in Chinatown, where we saw another very special community event headlined by none other than Jayson Tatum. I'm back here from New Orleans, so was he. I think I beat him by probably an hour, landed here in about an hour before him, took a very early morning flight. But it was a very special experience, and you can check out the full interview.